Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, doing this on my phone this week since Windows decided to do an update when I wasn't expecting it. And of course, I'm here with Big Vito LaGrasso, professional as always. What's up, Vito?
How's it going, guys? I hope everybody's doing good. Virtue, the phone is actually doing you good. I see the Christmas tree is not lit up, but it's still standing strong. And your
It is.
background is looking good. How's the weather down by you?
Well, it was warm today. It was like 70. Sun was out. I got some stuff done outside, but the snow is coming and the cold once more again in the next day or so.
Wow. So that means I need to, I'm coming up by you next week, right?
Yeah, I got to find out where that is. I know it's Ohio, but I got to find. It might be quite a drive for me. I got to find out.
Not if you can't make it understandable. Virtue, we've had a very busy week in wrestling. Go ahead and take it away.
Yes. Well, as always, Vito, we always have something to talk about, and I'm going to start the show off with I need your thoughts here on one Tony Khan coming out on Dynamite last week and announcing that he has purchased whatever was left of Ring of Honor. Obviously, I think it was like December, January, Ring of Honor announced that they were going to shut down, pretty much regroup. They released all their wrestlers from their contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want your thoughts on this. Like, was this all about the tape library? Like, to me, AEW was the extension of Ring of Honor, right? If you look at All In, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, the way that all started, how it turned into AEW, that was kind of that Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor fizzled out since AEW, in my opinion. Now Tony Khan owns it all. What do you think?
Let's look at it this way, right? When Vince McMahon was purchasing WCW, ECW, he's building a monopoly. He's trying to corner the market, okay? Tony Khan does not have any library stock. And if I'm not mistaken, he bought all of Ring of Honor stock, lock and barrel, all the tapes, everything, right?
Yep.
So now he has an asset in that because there are more guys who went through Ring of Honor that wrestled for WWE that they can't showcase on their stuff with Peacock. And now Tony Khan owns it. So that's a coup for him. Secondly, can this be a brand extension for the guys he has under contract and put them on Ring of Honor on another network? From what I understand, could there be a TV deal for them? Could there be more hours on TV? Now that Tony Khan has Ring of Honor, it is quite possible that this can happen.
Now, Vito,
So,
you
go
know what?
ahead.
I'll be impressed when we see what their next TV deal would be, because they got that first TV deal with Turner right now.
Right.
I'll be impressed once I see what that extension, like what that next TV deal will be for AEW, and if they can get a streaming deal, even if it's with like a HBO Max or a Netflix, just something to give one of those streaming services different content that's not WWE, where they could say, hey, we have wrestling too, not just Peacock. I'll be impressed if AEW can pull that off.
Well, I mean, let's give the man credit. Everybody comes on, I hear it all the time. And Tony Khan's a mark. Tony Khan is this. Tony Khan is that. Tony Khan, Tony. How about giving him some credit for taking the initiative? Now, I don't know what it cost him to buy Ring of Honor.
We won't really know yet. Jargo says at some point Sinclair will have to report that, and we'll find out.
Could it be maybe he spent $1 million on it?
That would have been a deal, maybe.
Okay.
I was seeing weird figures like 400,000 and 500,000, and then some things were saying 30, 40 million. I don't know what to believe, Vito. I think we got to wait this one out.
I think, honestly, guys, when WCW was sold, they sold for $2.35 million, right?
Yep.
It was an inside job. There was somebody on the take. It was a rigged deal because Eric Bischoff had an offer from Mandalay Bay for $36 million to buy WCW. Okay. Now, Ring of Honor might not be in the, above ECW, but their library is still worthy of buying a collection. I say $500,000 to $1,000,000 because you could parlay that and they could do so many different things because you have Bryan Danielson, you got CM Punk, you have the Bucks, you have so many people who went through the system there that they could parlay this into a dark side of the ring or a dark side of Ring of Honor or Ring of Honor, let's recreate what we had back in the day thing. People are watching and buy it because they have the tape and the footage.
Now, do you think that it'll keep its obviously it's Ring of Honor name, right? Because I get that's got some history to it. You think Tony Khan will run it and brand it as itself with their own pay-per-views?
I think
to keep it different from AEW.
I think with all the young guys they have there, I think they could probably put them in there and maybe use Ring of Honor as an NXT, which would be probably the way to go. But if you're going to do that, Tony Khan, as a wrestling guy who's 32 years experience, if you do put those young guys on Ring of Honor TV and you do it, please have the veterans work with these guys in controlled matches so they're not running crazy and doing crazy things. Have the agents. So this way, when they're ready to come up to the top show, these guys will be seasoned and not lost.
I like that idea, to be honest with you. And
yes.
Again, I'm going to give AEW benefit of the doubt. I know Tony Khan comes out almost every week and announces something. We got a new wrestler or whatever. Well, here he found, hey, I own Ring of Honor now, which is that diehard fan base of AEW. That's kind of like where they all started. And so he's appealing to what fans he already has.
Right.
I will always challenge him to expand beyond those fans and try to get casuals in. But let's see what happens. Worst case scenario, he's still appeasing the fans he already has. And if I was a diehard fan of AEW, I would be happy if the owner of the company that I like is trying to appeal to me. Even though I'm not, but I would. So
you get it. The fans get it. Let's hope it comes out the way it's supposed to, and everybody can be happy with it. And this way, let's look at it in a positive way. Man made a purchase. If you could parlay this and make it into something good, congratulations, you did something great. You did something Vince McMahon would have did if he could have got his hands on it. But maybe the WWE didn't pony up enough money. Anybody ever think of that?
Yep. And Impact's still Impact. Nobody's bought Impact yet. So
nobody has bought Impact.
Yeah.
Nobody has bought those libraries. You know who else still owns their library?
Well, who?
IWCCW, the Savaldis.
Oh, wow. Do they?
Yes, they have. He has not let that go. He wants a king's ransom, and everybody went through there. If Vince ever got his hands on that,
he's gotten WCW and ECW and maybe some other smaller things, right. But which again is done well. Plus their own library, WWE's doing really well with that. But we'll see Vito. Now, okay. I'm going to ask you a question here. This was not one of the topics I gave you.
Okay.
You're lean and mean these days, right? You're healthy, you're looking good, you're in shape, you're doing the big Vito plan.
Right.
Not too long ago, Chris Jericho was taking some time off of AEW to tour Fozzy. Mm-hmm. And I think he was in England. And he had some type of health scare where they canceled a concert and he had to go see a doctor. And they never said what it was. They said he would be okay, but he had to watch himself. Whatever, they never really disclosed exactly what happened. And this would have been back in the fall.
Okay.
The past couple of weeks, Jericho looks like he's in WWE shape.
Right.
Now, we know he's done DDP yoga in the past. We're talking, Jericho looked pretty bloated the last year and a half, right? Whatever. I mean, he was still Chris Jericho, but he looked, you could tell he was a little off, maybe drinking a little extra, who knows. what did this guy do in such a short term, Vito? I don't know if you've seen him the last couple weeks. He looks like he's ready to come back to WWE. Like he looks like that last time he was there. Did he cut out the alcohol? Can you get there that quick? I mean, it's not like he was super overweight, but dude, they show the before and after picture, Vito. The guy, man, he's back in that Chris Jericho, the list shape.
He looks awesome.
What do you think he did? Yoga?
Yoga doesn't get you that ripped.
Quick?
I'm thinking he took some really good supplements. He had a good diet plan. Probably hired a personal trainer. Probably two a days. But I think the supplements have a lot to do with it. And to get you that shredded. Plus, what everybody forgets is Jericho has genetics.
Yeah.
He's not. When you have genetics, it's easy to get that back. When you don't.
It's like he lost some water weight too. Like, again, I'm not saying he was drinking a lot, but dude, I'm thinking this guy's getting ready to come back to WWE soon, because that's what I thought he was going to do, was disappear when his contract was up for AEW, get back in old Jericho form and show back up in WWE. Well, he did all that early in AEW, which is good for him.
No, it is good. He looks fabulous. Congratulations on getting your body. You can lose the weight if you want to. That's something everybody, is out there thinking you can't, but if you want to, you will.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out because, you're always about looking fit and being ready to get back and rock and roll out there on TV. And shit, Jericho changed his look in a matter of months. So good on him. Anything on Big Vito's mind this week before we get into some more interesting wrestling topics?
I got something with the UFC,
Okay. They had an event was it last night?
Yes, they had an event last night. And it just seems like when guys are in the spotlight and they're on top and they're main eventing the pay-per-views, it seems like they're one or two in, then all of a sudden they're going on a losing streak, right?
Do you notice that too?
Yes. And Masvidal, George Masvidal, who he's been there a long time. He's 37 years old. He's had his share of fights. He was an ex-street fighter, just like Kimbo Slice. When he fought Diaz for the BMF title, which is the baddest motherfucker title, and they had the belt, The Rock presented it, and when he built up to that, he looked like he was invincible. Super cat quick. Everything was good. Kicks, punches, everything, power. Since then, he has been on a 3-fight losing streak. And last night, he lost to Colby Covington. Now, the both of them hated each other. Both of them are ex-teammates. The animosity was there. But Covington took him down and is out wrestling him, outgunned him, and you just looked at that and you said, okay, this is a grudge match and you're wrestling the guy instead of throwing hands with the guy. Let's see who could be a bigger beast. But
is this the same Jorge Masvidal that's been doing some stuff with Dan Lambert and AEW the past 6 months?
Yes, same guy.
Interesting. Does doing that stuff make you lose focus on what you were doing good at when you were dominating your fights?
Ronda Rousey is the perfect example of losing concentration, because Ronda Rousey, remember, she was undefeated. She started doing movies. She started doing commercials. She started she started to do things. Holly Holm didn't have no business beating her. And it was one kick to the head that rocked her, and she got caught.
Yep.
She came back for Nunes, and she destroyed her. And I think it's like when the guys get to the tip in UFC, they fall off the top of the cliff like there's nobody's tomorrow. I'll give you a perfect example. Robbie Lawler. Okay, Robbie Lawler. He is a really good fighter. Okay. Nick Diaz, not Nate, but Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
When he came back, he handpicked Robbie Lawler. Now, Robbie Lawler trained like a beast for Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz was the man when he was fighting. Came back. He still had a good fight, but Robbie Lawler had to get in good shape. Now, it took Nick Diaz to bring it out in him, and he admitted it. If it wasn't for Nick Diaz, I wouldn't be in this position to come back and look phenomenal. Right?
Yep.
Conor McGregor is another one at the tippy top. I mean, invincible. I'm going to have.
Is it? And this has been a pattern. Like you can even go into boxing.
Yes.
Is it because like once you're at the top, do you feel? And if you feel invincible, like Tyson was guilty of this, and he said this. You don't train as hard, and then everybody that's coming after you from underneath is doing everything you used to do, and they get to your level and they beat you.
I mean, you look at Chuck Liddell, right? We loved Chuck Liddell when he was knocking out guys. Chuck Liddell, when he started getting knocked out by Franklin, remember Franklin came and he was the first one to knock out Chuck Liddell. Everybody was like, whoa, what just happened? Remember a guy by the name of Randleman, who's Randleman, he had passed away. He was a black fighter with the blonde hair. You talk about a guy who had an engine and power. Randy Couture, another guy, right? Who's the best one of them all? Tito Ortiz. I love watching Tito Ortiz fights because he goes and he fights. If he's getting his ass kicked, you know it. If he's going to kick somebody's ass, you know it. Michael Bisping was somebody who was on the bottom. And once he hit the top peak, he rolled until he fought George St. Pierre and he lost. And he was just like, okay, you know. And you look at so many other great fighters who came through. And lately, I've been looking at these fighters, and I have no interest in watching UFC like you used to watch it. But you say, this guy used to be the man. What the hell happened?
It's crazy, man. And like I said, I remember that happening in boxing a lot too. Like you get to, other than Mayweather, but you know that was a whole different. He played like cat and mouse in his boxing matches, and maybe that's why he was able to have that streak and he's still undefeated, correct? Floyd Mayweather.
But now let's put Floyd Mayweather in another era. Let's put him in there with Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvis Morgan Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Vito Antuofermo, okay, Hector Camacho, Julio Cesar Chavez. Out of those guys, do you think he beats them all?
Would you put De La Hoya in there too?
And De La Hoya.
Yeah.
But De La Hoya,
there's no way he can win every one of them. There's no way.
He would not beat Sugar Ray Leonard. Roberto Duran in his prime would eat him. Right? Talk about Tommy Hearns with the power. Marvin Hagler, Vito Antuofermo, Julio Cesar Chavez.
And look what boxing has become. Jake Paul is like the big draw. And granted, I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but like at some point you got to figure this guy's going to get his clock kicked, right?
Yes, but do you guys realize, right? Boxing today is not like it was boxing before.
No.
These boxers, they were fighting 5 and 6 times a year.
Yep. Tyson was doing that, and then all of a sudden he got surprised by Buster Douglas, which I still claim Tyson beat him in the 8th round, but that's whatever.
13 seconds.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, he was boxing all kinds of matches.
Right. And you talk about when you're coming up back then, that's all you did was fight every 3 months, every 3 months, every 3 months. You're back in the gym. You're back. If you didn't have any cuts, you didn't get injured, you might have get a second fight the next week because they needed fighters. And you look at today. You look at today, they fight twice a year, once a year. How are you supposed to be king of the king of the ring if you fight once a year? That's garbage.
Now we'll move on, Vito, here, and talking about a boxing. You think of like historical venues. I want to briefly talk about Madison Square Garden and WWE, and we're talking. I mean, they had the first WrestleMania there. They had like that was Bruno Sammartino's stomping grounds for years. Sold out the Garden. had the ridiculous run as champion. And here we are in 2022. And at Madison Square Garden, they struggle to even get 8 to 10,000 people for and why do they do house shows? Like, wouldn't you think the Garden you'd want that like televised or like a Peacock special? What's the aura for Vince McMahon around Madison Square Garden and doing house shows that aren't like major events? I just find that weird.
I don't know if you remember, maybe it's before you, but those Garden shows, MSG, used to be televised back in the day.
They were, I know. And they were like, whether it was the MSG network or wherever you could see them, they weren't just for the house.
Yeah.
Right.
They were on MSG.
And it's weird. Like Vince still wants the Garden to be like WWE's own playground. And they did a SmackDown there, not, in the last 6 months. Brock and Roman were on there. I think they had a sellout. So, but a lot of those are live events is what they call them, but house shows. And it's weird, Vito. The fact that they can't, what does the Garden hold for wrestling? Back in the day for Bruno, was it like a 19,000 seat arena?
19,000 people.
And they're barely doing half of that.
Economy
has
a big thing to do with it, right? And you've got to remember that they still have a mandate in New York with COVID. Okay.
That's true, and everybody's got to be vaccinated. So, okay. So, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I always found that, like, just interesting that they do a lot of house shows there. And that's what happened last night.
But what we saw at the house show last night, you saw them putting steam on the heel. Brock Lesnar's the babyface. The babyface chases the heel. That's the way it goes until the big match, and then you get the payoff. And that's old school booking. Okay?
Yeah. And I tweeted earlier today, like, I won't be upset if Brock wins because it's Brock Lesnar, former UFC champion. So this is going to be an interesting like conversation you and I have going forward the next few weeks, because I know you're expecting Brock to win that Roman's title, and I'm still on the other bandwagon for some reason. But that's not a topic for tonight. We'll bring that back up soon. But yeah, just the Garden, man. I did a tour of the Garden when I was in New York a few years ago, and it's awesome, dude. Still a great sports venue.
I just want to bring up a point when we were talking about UFC. We didn't bring up Brock Lesnar.
No.
And I just want to bring up an important point. If Brock Lesnar didn't get sick, the streak he was on and beating guys, I don't think he would have lost the fight.
Oh, with the diverticulitis?
Yes. And the first time he got kicked in the ribs, he crumbled like a sack of shit because that's where he had the surgery.
Yep. And keep in mind, he still was 5-3, a winning record with a 1-0 decision, which he technically won. But remember, he was accused or got tested positive or something. So let's say 5-3, and he was the former champion. Like, that's a success story, right?
No, it is. It is. But getting back to the Garden, I just think once they lift the mandate, and I think with the economy financially, because WWE is charging a pretty penny to go to these shows.
And Garden's always expensive too these days.
And parking and inflation. I mean, what are the tickets now? $50 to $75 a pop?
I mean, all I know is when I was touring the Garden, the upper deck nosebleeds were $90 for the worst seat in the house. The tour guide was saying, $90 for a nosebleed at the Garden.
That's a lot of money. How do you take a family of four, just to walk into Madison Square Garden is $400. That's not including food and parking and tolls and gas. You're looking at $600 or $700 to go watch one night of wrestling.
Yeah. Insane, Vito. Insane. Now, ready for this, for our main topic?
Good.
Vince McMahon was on the Pat McAfee show. A lot of people are saying it was one of the best interviews anyone that has ever had with Vince McMahon. Dude opened up. Vince swore. Pat McAfee's a pretty entertaining guy, right? Former punter in the NFL for the Colts. Right. Color commentary on SmackDown. He wrestled a match in NXT against Adam Cole. The dirt sheets kept saying Vince McMahon is going to wrestle at WrestleMania. You and I both know, and anybody with a brain knew that was never going to happen.
Right.
So here we are. Vince gave McAfee a match. And of course, now it's been revealed it's going to be against Austin Theory, who's that guy that's been working with Vince on TV. Just wanted to know your thoughts on that. The interview, if you watched it, the fact how they, is this Austin Theory and Pat McAfee's? Vince will probably be ringside. I mean, what do you think with all this? It's good mid-card stuff, right?
That's good mid-card stuff. From what I gathered at the Garden, Austin Theory was supposed to be the opponent for Brock Lesnar before he got thrashed by Roman Reigns. Okay, that's what I got. Him coming out with Vince McMahon, okay, he's fighting an announcer. He's not even fighting a wrestler.
No.
He got dropped by the heavyweight champ on his head in a match. And then you come in to defend the owner of the company. Now,
I mean, McAfee, you're right. I mean, yes, you have Bad Bunny wrestling matches. You have Johnny Knoxville. I don't know where you put McAfee in there. We don't know how much training he's had, but you're right. He's not an everyday worker.
No, he's not. He's somebody who's going to come do a practice match and hopefully it comes off good. You got this Austin Theory kid, and he's a guinea pig. They need an extra body for Brock Lesnar. Okay, let me throw him on top of his head. They need a match at WrestleMania. Walk down with McMahon. This kid's going to do it. I have a feeling this kid is going to get the scrutiny and just going to get the "you're fired" and get harassed by McMahon, and that's going to be the end of it.
I think that match was originally supposed to be Shane and Austin Theory, and everything that happened with Shane and Vince, and how Shane it's kind of like doing other business ventures for WWE, not doing anything because of the controversy from the Royal Rumble. I feel this McAfee thing was the alternate they came up with, because I think Shane was supposed to do something at Mania. That's just what I think, but who knows?
You never know. You never know. But that's the state of wrestling. It's
and I still don't think, and we got time, we'll see what happens. I still don't think Stone Cold is going to wrestle. I think the dirt sheets have been given a lot of bogus stuff, which is what WWE should have that happen. I'm sick of these moles of leaking out what the company's plans are. I think that's BS. I know it's happened for years, but if WWE was smart enough to send fake news out to get the dirt sheets talking, I'm all for that. You and I both, now Stone Cold can show up, do something, drink a beer, flick some people off, do a stunner, but I don't think he's going to wrestle.
No, not at all. I don't think it's going to happen. But do you notice that the WWE also is only pushing one match? They're building
Roman and Brock.
That's it. What is the rest of the card?
Well, you got Becky. Here's what's weird. 2 nights, right?
Right.
So I know, they could get 100,000 in there if they tried, but obviously 2 nights. I think their goal was low 50s for each night, because they're going to say combined 103,000 people. That's just a WWA. So they have 2 nights. Both of the women's titles matches are night 1. What do you think about that? From what I could gather, Becky and Bianca is night 1, and then closing night 1 is Charlotte and Ronda. Isn't that weird?
I think they're trying to put the every match is important, but what's important to the pay-per-view, I think there's a pecking order. So I think the girls are ranking 1 through 5 on a 10-match card. So
I can see night 1, they're going to start with Becky and Bianca first match, and then at the end of night 1, Charlotte Ronda. That's probably what they're going to do there.
And isn't that something that Becky would open the show and Charlotte will close the show?
Now, granted, because Becky, remember, all 3 of them closed that one WrestleMania. Right. But let's be honest, the opening match at WrestleMania has always been a pretty big spot too, right?
No, it is.
The hot open, but we're going to be talking about this the next few weeks, Vito. Anything else you'd like to add before we close the show this week?
No, I just want to thank everybody for your support. Thank everybody for listening. Join our Patreon. Miss Noelle is still not feeling good. We're trying to keep up with everything. As we go on, we'll give you updates. Just keep on your prayers. And that's about it for tonight. Virtue, take it away.
Yeah, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/BigVMafia. Go to Twitter and follow Vito at the Big Vito Brand. Follow me if you want at NoDQ_Virtue. But this has been Getting Color with Big Vito right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And we will see you again next time. Thanks for watching and listening.
Thank you for people in chat. I really appreciate it. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.